Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Akansha Parmu. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Wednesday, the 28th of December. 4 terrorists neutralized in encounter in India's Jammu and Kashmir. No chance of economic default, Pakistan's Finance Minister assures investors. And Taliban bans on women leaves Afghan teachers devastated. And now for all the details. At least 4 terrorists were neutralized by security forces on Wednesday in Jammu city of the Indian territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The gun battle ensued in Sidhra area of Jammu after security officials intercepted a truck having suspicious movement. Officials also managed to recover a huge cache of weapons and ammunition from the encounter site.
At least 4 terrorists were neutralized by security forces on Wednesday in northern Jammu city of the Indian territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The gun battle ensued in Sidhra area of Jammu after security forces intercepted a truck having suspicious movement. When the truck was searched, terrorists opened fire on the security personnel, which they retaliated. During the ensuing gunfight, the truck caught fire in which the 4 terrorists were killed. The driver, however, managed to flee, for whom a search operation was underway till the last reports came in. Police also managed to recover a huge cache of weapons and ammunition from the encounter site.
4 आतंकी जो ट्रक में थे वो मारे गए। 8 बड़े हथियार बरामद हुए हैं, जिसमें 7 AK-47 और 1 M4 राइफल बरामद हुआ है। 3 पिस्टल्स बरामद हुए हैं और भी कुछ मैगजीन्स, एम्युनिशन और पाउच वगैरह भी बरामद हुआ है।
Meanwhile, a socio-political group, Dogra Front, held an anti-Pakistan rally in Jammu city after the encounter. India has long blamed terrorists are aided by Pakistan to spread unrest in the Indian territory. Islamabad, however, denies this allegation and says it only provides diplomatic support to people of the Kashmir Valley.
Cold wave conditions and dense fog continue to make life difficult for people in northern India, with the homeless being the worst hit. As winter is tightening its grip, it has become more challenging for the people living on the roadside to survive the chilly weather.
Cold wave conditions and dense fog on Wednesday continued to make life difficult for people in parts of northern India, with the homeless being the worst hit. A thick layer of fog engulfed northern Amritsar city as people faced reduced visibility and biting cold. People stepped out dressed in multiple layers of clothing to protect themselves from the cold. The Weather Office declares a cold wave in plains of India when the minimum temperature dips to 4 degrees Celsius. A cold wave is also declared when the minimum temperature is 10 degrees Celsius or below and is 4.5 notches below normal.
ਸਰ ਅੱਜ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਧੁੰਦ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਨਾ ਅੱਗੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਧੁੰਦ ਅੱਜ ਪਈ ਹੈ। ਅੱਜ ਇੰਨੀ ਕਿ ਠੰਡ ਆ ਵੀ ਹੱਥ ਪੈਰ ਸਭ ਜੰਮੇ ਪਏ।
Dense fog in capital New Delhi hit movement of vehicles, leaving people waiting at the bus stations for hours to reach their destinations. For the last few days, the national capital has been witnessing cold wave conditions. The city recorded a minimum temperature of 7.8 degrees Celsius on Wednesday morning. Wrapped in blankets, the homeless slept in the open and lit bonfires to keep themselves warm in Moradabad and Kanpur cities. As winter is tightening its grip, it has become more challenging for the people living on the roadside to survive the chilly weather.
ठंड लगती है बेटा, क्या करे? ठंड लगती है, बहुत लगती है, लेकिन करे क्या, अपना गुजारा करना है बस.
South Asia's winters are not as cold as other regions such as North America, but the millions of poor here are hit harder because they live in the open and do not have enough warm clothes and often die.
In news from Pakistan, Pakistan's Finance Minister Ishaq Dar assured investors on Monday that there was no chance Pakistan would default, insisting that the country had a resilient economy. The remarks came as the South Asian nation is in dire need of external financing support, with its reserves depleting and an IMF review pending since September.
Pakistan's Finance Minister Ishaq Dar on Wednesday claimed that whatever tough circumstances the country is facing nowadays, he could prove that it wouldn't default on the economic front. Virtually addressing a gathering of investors at the Pakistan Stock Exchange, Dar lashed out at the previous PTI-led government and said the rumors about the default were being fanned by those who brought the country to this point. He also assured the current government would complete the IMF program as efforts continue for resumption of a bailout package, a review of which is pending since September.
Oh, bhai, kaise default hoga? There is no chance that Pakistan will default. Inshallah, Pakistan will survive. We are managing. हाँ, tight position जरूर है. वो 24 बिलियन का रिजर्व नहीं है जो 2016 में हम लेके गए थे. But that is not हुकूमत fault. That is not my fault.
Last week, global ratings agency S&P Global cut Pakistan's long-term sovereign credit rating by one notch to reflect a continued weakening of the country's external, fiscal and economic metrics. This year, severe floods, surging food and energy inflation, as well as rising global interest rates are also expected to depress Pakistan's economic and fiscal outcomes, with refinancing challenges over the medium term, the report said.
Moving on, with the onset of winters, gas crisis has intensified across the Pakistan's economic hub, Karachi city. Residents have complained due to load shedding and low pressure of gas, their day-to-day routine is getting affected. The state-owned Sui gas company had earlier declared 16 hours of load shedding after days of prolonged hours of unannounced shedding.
With the onset of winters, the crisis of gas has intensified across Pakistan's financial capital, Karachi. Residents of the port city have complained due to load shedding and low pressure of gas in different areas of the city. Their day-to-day routine is getting affected. While the domestic consumers are relying on expensive food from local eateries, hotel owners in Karachi have complained they are also facing issues due to the gas shortage. We request the government to provide us some relief in gas bills, a hotel owner said.
हम जो है किसी तरीके से भी गुजारा करने के जो है ना किस तरीके से गुजारा के समझ से बाहर है. अपने वसाइल को कैसे बढ़ाएं. हमारे जो भी वसाइल हैं हम उसके मुताबिक अपना एक्सपेंस चलाते हैं पूरे महीने का. अभी बिल आ गया था 60,000 का बिल भरा है मैंने. फिर उसके बाद ये मंथली जो है ये हमारे गैस के सिलेंडर आते हैं तकरीबन 90,000 के सिलेंडर बढ़ जाते हैं. तो हमारे को तो बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा आने वाला वक्त कि हम किस तरीके से पैसे रिकवर करेंगे. कुछ कह नहीं सकते इस बारे में. ये कराची के अंदर ये क्यों मसला है. बाकी इर्द गिर्द में तो चलो जैसे पहाड़ी इलाका में मरी का रहने वाला हूँ वहाँ भी गैस नहीं जमती. जो पानी जम जाता है लेकिन गैस नहीं जमती. उसी तरह प्रेशर से गैस आ रही है. कराची में कोई पता नहीं क्या हालात.
Sui Southern Gas Company, a semi-government owned company, had earlier this month announced 16 hours load shedding. It is ensuring gas supply during meal hours as per the Prime Minister's directives, the company tweeted. Pakistan's gas reserves are depleting fast while the supplies are shrinking. The country mostly meets its energy demands through imported and indigenous resources.
In news from Afghanistan, following bans by the Taliban-led administration on women attending universities or working for humanitarian aid groups, a female educator has expressed disappointment and has urged the international community to provide continued support and draw attention to their plight. The Taliban took over Afghanistan in August 2021 and has imposed policies severely restricting basic rights, particularly those of women and girls.
Bakshi, a female educator in Afghanistan, on Tuesday said that she was disappointed following bans by the Taliban-led administration on women attending universities or working for humanitarian aid groups. Afghanistan's Taliban-run Higher Education Ministry on December 20 suspended access to universities for female students until further notice, a move which has drawn strong condemnation from the US, Britain and the United Nations. The Taliban, however, said that the move was justified because some women had not adhered to their interpretation of the Islamic dress code for women. Bakshi urged the international community to provide continued support and draw attention to their plight.
شان واقعا صمیمانه و از اعماق قلب خود میخوایم هرگز امید خود از دست ندن و به خاطر حقی که خدا برش داده به خاطر حقی که بالاخره دین ما برشان داده و به خاطر حقی که یک انسان باید داشته باشه مجادله داشته باشن روی کارت داشته باشن و هرگز تسلیم نشون از دیدگاه ما.
The Taliban took over Afghanistan in August 2021 and has imposed policies severely restricting basic rights, particularly those of women and girls. Taliban decrees prohibit women from traveling unless accompanied by a male relative and require women's faces to be covered in public, including women's TV newscasters. No foreign government has so far recognized the Taliban's regime in Afghanistan. The country's assets have remained frozen due to sanctions that have severely hampered banking, business and development, leading to greater insecurity, poverty and isolation.
In news from Nepal, Nepal's President Bidhya Devi Bhandari, on the recommendation of the newly formed government, has called the new session of both houses of the parliament on January 9. CPN Maoist Centre Chairman and new Nepal Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal, who took office on Monday, has formed an 8-member cabinet with 3 deputy prime ministers. The senior-most member of the House of Representatives, Pashupati Shamsher JB Rana, who administered the oath of office to newly elected members, will chair the meetings until a new speaker is elected. As per the constitution, the speaker and the deputy speaker should be elected within 15 days of the first meeting of the parliament. Meanwhile, reports suggest the Election Commission has started preparations of presidential election to be held by February 11. The term of the incumbent president will end on 13th of March. Tibetan spiritual leader the Dalai Lama on Tuesday inaugurated a 5-exchange program in India's Bodh Gaya town to bolster ties between followers of Pali and Sanskrit traditions of Buddhism. A senior monk said the program will help in harmony among the sects of Buddhism and its expansion.
Tibetan spiritual leader the Dalai Lama on Tuesday inaugurated the Pali and Sanskrit International Bhikkhu Exchange Program, which aims to bolster ties between followers of Pali and Sanskrit traditions in India's eastern holy city of Bodh Gaya. During the inaugural ceremony, monks were seen praying to Lord Buddha's idol as they recited hymns in Pali and later the Heart Sutra, which is a philosophy from the Mahayana sect of Buddhism. A senior monk said the 5-year program will go on till 2027 and will help in the expansion of Buddhism and communal harmony among its sects.
There is something slight differences between the Theravada or Mahayana. That this or those differences, not to misunderstand. We organize this one by blessing of His Holiness Dalai Lama. Actually, it was his wishes, and we launched today 5 years plan, 2022 to 2027. This exchange program will help to spread or grow a more Buddhist world.
The Dalai Lama belongs to Gelugpa, one of the largest and most influential tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, which is rooted in the Mahayana Buddhism.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. 4 terrorists neutralized in encounter in India's Jammu and Kashmir. No chance of economic default, Pakistan's Finance Minister assures investors. And Taliban bans on women leaves Afghan teachers devastated. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.